All right, good people. Mercedes Monet officially debuts at AEW Big Business. We're here tonight to talk all about it. That's certainly going to be our big topic and majority of our discussion tonight. So sit back, relax. Let's get into tonight's episode of the Big O Belt Wrestling Podcast.
Big O Belt, Big O Belt, Big O Belt. Big O Belt, all I really want is that Big O Belt, Big O Belt, Big O Belt, Big O Belt, all I really need, that Big O Belt.
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Big O Belt Wrestling Podcast, coming to you live each and every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we're going to give you just about an hour or so of pro wrestling talk. And this evening, we're absolutely going to have a lot to discuss on just one really big topic, and that is Mercedes Monet officially making her AEW debut, getting the All Elite banner and all that other good stuff at Big Business, which was in her hometown, Boston. So yeah, 2 Chainz here, Najir, alongside Damien and the Giant Crab, Jamal. Gentlemen, how's it going tonight?
Good.
Not bad.
Cool. I want to start off about something you had said in our chat, Jamal, and it was obviously leading up into her debut. In all fairness, I feel us as a wrestling podcast or personalities, whatever you want to call it, I think we take the unconventional way of discussing things. I think we really try to prioritize the fandom in this, and we talk about the things we like, the things we don't like, and bring some psychology to it. But at the end of the day, this is fun for us. We're not here to break any news or to like stir the pot or anything. Yeah, definitely not. But you did say that although all the signs led to this, everybody's reporting it, everybody's predicting it, everybody's trying to be the first to the finish line with the news. And whether you're on the internet observing that or you just have like some great, prediction skills or analysis, the proof is in the pudding that we sort of knew that was going to happen. But you said that you stayed away from it as much as you can. You wanted to be a fan and you wanted to see what it was going to happen. So I'm going to start off there and then a little bit of perspective about that. Her coming out in the beginning of the show, were you excited? Were you at all surprised? And then ultimately, once it sat in, she got in the ring, she cut the promo. What was your reaction? So basically, take us through this whole ride up into her leaving out, and they're going to a commercial.
Well, let me just say that it was totally not by a design that I'm wearing my AEW shirt tonight. This was just what I wore to work today. Now, as far as the surprise of it all, it's hard to be surprised when you do what we do. We have to keep at least one ear to the streets to understand what people are talking about, to get to our reaction to what you want to hear. So, we are men of the people, and you people, let us know, interact with us, Big Gold Belt on everything, and let us know what you want to hear, what you're feeling. And we're going to get all of those thoughts and collate them and come back today and in a week from now until the end of the year to go ahead and talk about that. So that's how you build a community. So because of those things and the nature of the beast, was I surprised? No, you just can't be surprised. It's big business with an S as a dollar sign in Boston for no reason. Well, obviously it's a thing. So when Mercedes came out, and this of course is on the heels of AEW changing their production a little bit. They got new graphics, they got a new stage. They brought back the double side portals. They a shiny new presentation for AEW. And then a couple weeks later, we get a big, glamorous debut. I thought it was interesting that Mercedes with that damn wig came out. CEO, her own theme song, cool, the pageantry, the presentation. This is what modern wrestling is nowadays. And it worked, and I was right there with her, and then she spoke. And then all of the air, just fizzled out of the balloon. Because I'm not sure who her character is supposed to be.
Can I jump in there real quick? A little bit of context. We talk all the time. We boys. That's what we do. I may be a little dishonest here, and rather I have stolen something you've said and either not acknowledged you or just had made it more of a consensus of the outlet. I just want to no, that's your Reddit friends, my guy. You be saying things and that's they know what happens. That's not us. You booked WWE for like 3 months. And I'm like, hold on, dog. Is he working for them? Like these things were happening. But now I've always said, and it actually goes back to your shirt. The last time we was in Orlando for Revolution, and we took the long way back across that campus. So we had a lot to talk about. But I remember you said that the reason why Sasha Banks on the main roster never worked for you because the gimmick. And you said, and I've had echoed this everywhere I went, because I 1,000% agree, is that how does the boss gimmick work when Stephanie McMahon is right there? She truly is the boss. You are answering to somebody. So how does it work? So with that, that's the first thing I'm thinking about in terms of who is she going to be in this? And now she comes out with CEO. So I just want to throw that out there because you definitely was the one that echoed it to me, and I firmly have ran with that all the way to the end zone because I 1,000% agree. But now she's the CEO, so yeah, continue with that content.
So if we flash, pause it at that moment where she speaks, and before she goes into her humble diatribe about Boston things, okay, cool. She's the CEO. It's spray painted into her hair. She has the brass knuckles, rings that says Monet, CEO, boss, all of that good stuff. Of what? Because I mean, if you're the CEO, well, Swerve is a mogul. Okay, so he runs many businesses. Max Friedman is just plain rich for no reason. Okay, cool. And then you have the CEO. Okay, Max Caster's platinum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have all of these well-to-do folks that are at the top of whatever economic, empire that they're running.
It's monopoly.
And it all seems like the same gimmick after a while. Now, granted, you could look at Swerve and go, "Well, he's a mogul. He looks like Craven, the Hunter, at times." When he's going on his psychotic, rampage against Adam Page. And then you look at Friedman, before his injury, you go, well, he's just a rich, preppy rich kid from Long Island. And then, you have, Nana as Swerve's henchman and all this other stuff. And it still all falls under Tony Khan, who is legit rich. I mean, that is the thing. And it just feels like I'm kind of tired of I'm a boss, but you still work, and that's something that's been kind of annoying. That gimmick itself has been beaten to death. We don't need to reanimate that horse. I don't know what their plan B is, but the boss, the CEO, the thing that runs the thing, the Bucks are EVPs. Yeah. And for the first time in their career as EVPs, has they actually used that to their advantage? Granted, in a smarmy heel way, looking like Czech porno producers. Allegedly, I don't know. I've never seen it. But the problem is that everybody's a boss. Everybody's a CEO. Everybody's a mogul. Everybody's just a rich kid from an affluent neighborhood. Jericho's literally the son of a hockey dad, which is why he grew up in Long Island and then moved to Canada. So everybody's rich. Miro was on a rampage with literal God. I mean, everybody's at the top.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So it doesn't make her. So her being a CEO isn't the flex that you think it is when you spray paint it into your wig.
Yeah, I feel you. I think it's not a gimmick that instantly has you invested.
Right.
But I do respect in a sense. And I mean, I know this is like a twofold thing. And I've been saying it for a while. And even before her getting here, I says, what does AEW do for her brand? AEW gets more from this than she gets from them. But she, she spoke to things saying in AEW, she gets to get a check, but also gets to do everything else and further the revolution across the world. So, obviously wrestling has a particular place in her heart. The money is obviously good here. It's not going to stop show business. It seems like she has some cosmetic stuff, I think, going on. She did fashion show weekend. She obviously is an actor. Seems like she's hinting at some other work coming down the line. Also, shout out to my man Evan T Mac, who had that exclusive interview with her, about an hour interview, really breaking all the things down, asking some really good questions and good insight about this. But the big thing from that interview is like, yeah, it highlighted just what her worth is. And so outside the ring and personally, you see like, okay, if there's one thing from leaving WWE, is you need to own your stuff. You need to establish your brand. And if you establish your brand and you own it, then you can call yourself the CEO. So if you are speaking in more of an entrepreneurship style of things, then I get it. But in the wrestling ring, as you said, Jamal, it doesn't shine as if it's something new or if there's something we haven't seen. Because yes, you're right. I have to be honest. I look at Swerve and I'm more or less inclined to believe his gimmick because he's bringing celebrities in working with him. So that means like he's a mogul. He has these henchmen under him, but yet he can pull influence from all these other folks. So I think you could bring in a Rick Ross and he makes an appearance. He gets some. So it's like you can see that. To me, it's like with Sasha, I'm really want to see beyond AEW trying to accommodate her stardom. What will her stardom be able to bring back to them? It brings me to my next point to give it to you, Damien. Her debut happened. Did it move the needle?
No.
The ratings told you that.
Yeah, I could have just as someone who has been a Mercedes Monet fan, Sasha Banks fan, pretty much since she got to NXT. I'll say one thing for this and say that her gimmick peaked in NXT and in a steady line ever since. She hasn't really evolved in terms of a character since then, and her wrestling is solid to good. So in terms of the in-ring portion, did it move the needle for me? No, and this is coming from someone who was a Mercedes KV fan back in the day. There is no, to Jamal's point about everybody's rich in AEW, so what's really the gimmick? Everyone's Instagram rich as far as I'm concerned at AEW, where everyone's rich on Instagram. So that's AEW for me. And now with her, it's like, okay, this is the same type of thing she did when she debuted for New Japan, which I was actually more excited for than for this. Because even though this has been talked about for so long, it fell flat. Whereas her showing up, for the New Japan event, all this pomp and circumstance, and as typical as what Mercedes does, to Jamal's point, the minute she opens her mouth, it's over. The hoopla is gone because promos have never been her strong suit. It's always been her in-ring portion. So to freshen up this character, and maybe we'll get into that, but for me, to make this worthwhile for her, as far as like AEW is concerned, I would love for her to have a stable, for her to lead a stable.
It would make sense as a CEO to have under.
Exactly, because that's what I was thinking. She needs her own goons.
Yeah, I mean, right. And then you're back to the same problem because
everybody's done that.
That's what Swerve has done in many iterations.
Friedman started it, and he brought in Wardlow as his manservant.
Yeah,
yes.
And Tony Storm, who's a star, elite talent, has her manservant because she's at that upper echelon in her thing. Everybody's rich and good. So now,
and again, I think Swerve is poised to be AEW World Champion, and whether you
think
whether
so.
you like him or not, the work
so.
is there. The work is there. The guy, I think the gimmick is working. I think he's creating the celebrity outside of wrestling, which is always good.
Right.
And he does a tremendous variety styles of wrestling. I mean, I think it's there all the way for him to be a champion. So to me, I'll say like, okay, the blueprint that's inevitably has had him in now the title picture. You have to recognize it for what it's worth. So it's to say, if Sasha, the CEO, who is now in this same ballpark, in the same discussion, mogul CEO, I don't know, Diddy changes his name like every 10 years.
We don't talk about Diddy.
We don't talk about him.
True.
Yeah, what are you doing? Trying to get us canceled. We're sorry.
Shout out to my man 50 Cent real quick. But like, no, I think that like if Swerve is laying down the blueprint, then if Mercedes takes that same route, will the fans be acceptable of it, knowing that they had just seen it? Is the
let me counter that with this. When Friedman was as hot as he's ever been, and that was in doing his face run up until he lost the title, right? I think we can agree that was his best run in AEW.
Yes.
It wasn't about his gimmick about being a rich asshole. It was about the friendship between him and Adam Cole.
Yes.
Sadly.
Okay.
Yes.
So, okay. Well, okay. I'm going somewhere with this. When Swerve and Adam Page had their run, which is arguably the hottest Swerve has ever been, and his Swerve is riding that wave right now.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the fact that he was friends with Rick Ross. It was because Swerve, has a chip on his shoulder, and he's doing the work to let people know that he is the man at the right place at the right time to be in these conversations about the championship.
Also, really quickly to both of those points though, the gimmicks around it were working. Asshole Freeman that turned face was interesting because you did not know if you can trust this guy or not, just as much as you didn't think you could trust Adam Cole. So
that wasn't based on his money. That was based on he was the fact that he was a prick. He could have been poor and a bus driver, and it would have been the same person.
But his status was the reason why he was operating the way he was. The whole thing with the kid outside, because he's like, I'm rich, I can just bite the bullet. Vince wants me. We don't talk about Vince, but WWE wants me. He had that persona like, I'm the hottest commodity and I have money. I can do whatever I want. I think the thing with Swerve is like,
though, no matter what, they pivoted. They pivoted away from the core. Both of them pivoted away from the core. Friedman's not working with Wardlow anymore as his right-hand man, Goon. Swerve doesn't have Parker Boudreaux for some reason. And the other guy that they cut, with just as many face tattoos. And that gimmick, that was the thing. They had to tweak the embassy from being the embassy, and they combined it actually with Swerve Enterprises and the embassy and made it the mogul embassy that it is today. So all of them had to pivot from the core that brought them there into something else.
Yeah.
And Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné, because that's going to get hard, so forgive us, but she is starting where they all started. If you're watching the tape, you should know better. That's not where you start. We already know that you're already everything that you said you are. You're the CEO. We get it. You have to start higher than that. Because it took Friedman a year to get to that white hot, place where he was. It took him a couple years. It took Swerve a year to figure out and tweak, the mogul embassies thing into where, he's at a place. People, yes, sure, Rick Ross was a thing. But he had that weird-ass feud with Keith Lee that nobody talks about anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's not that the gimmick itself of them being rich and powerful got them over. It's the fact that they pivoted away from that into a different place. Yes, arguably based on that foundation that brought them somewhere else. And I don't have a year to wait for Mercedes to reach that point where she pivots.
I think in sports, you can play the best 3 quarters of football in your life. But when it gets down to that last 2 minutes of the game, you have to become a different beast. I mean, I'm always going to attest Kobe Bryant work ethics as really the blueprint here. And I think in the same case, like, you can miss as many shots as you want during the beginning of that game or whatever. Be fancy, nice crossover, a couple of flashy dunks, do all you want. Take it to that last quarter, and you got to come through and be clutch. And I think in this case with Mercedes is right now, what we know of her and her introduction right now, was not really the step for it. It was more like the doors open and she walked through instead of her busting down the door. Here she is. She's on the scene. Things are about to go down. And granted,
so I don't.
gotta
We
say,
didn't really talk about her actual speech. So I
yeah.
think we should give a little bit of context as to what she said and why we think that fell flat.
Really quickly on that, I think that gimmick was not a wrestling gimmick per se. I think that was
Right.
an acknowledgement and a love letter back to the fans. So I don't even count it at all. I think she said she wanted to get a lot off her chest. I think if she had already debuted, she would have had said all of this on Evan Mack's podcast. But these were the things she couldn't say about the fans riding with her the whole time. A difficult 2 years. Who knows what she was going through personally, but on paper, you're looking, she had an amazing 2 years because her and Trinity was getting it out there. They were not at all sitting at home on the couch. They were getting it in. But I mean, at the end of the day, she just, again, love letters to the fans of saying, thank you for being there for me. I'm here. Wrestling means a lot to me. Shout out to Eddie Guerrero. Boston, what's up? Snoop was good. And I'm a CEO and I'm out, deuces, and do the little thing, and then that's it, So I didn't take much of that. I think whether you want to talk about it or not, I think what's more interesting is Willow and Rio main eventing, and she is there. Did that do anything for anybody?
Well, yes. And I want to talk about that separately, because if Mercedes isn't there, that match happens in this usual dead spot at 9:25 p.m.
Yes.
And it's a ho-hum match.
That is a super fact.
Yeah, right. And it's a ho-hum match, and cool. But I want to get into that a little bit later, because that actually happens a little bit later. Because you got to wonder, well, why are the women main eventing if Mercedes isn't going to interject herself anyway? So that's why I want to save that for a little bit for later. Right. So then the question now becomes, hindsight being what it is, Monet Morton quarterbacking, y'all can write that one down. If you think about it, is Mercedes coming out first speech in AEW as this humble, wrestling fan turned professional that's just happy to be here? Is that the person that we want to see as our first impression? For me, it's a no. And I think that's part of the problem with why as soon as she opened her mouth, it fell flat. I understand the emotion. I understand being in your hometown-ish. She's from California, but nobody wants to talk about that. But I understand.
She did it on the podcast too, which is like she cut it real,
I mean, they moved to Boston, but that's okay. Cool. Nobody's from Boston. They're either from Ireland or from Connecticut. Nobody lives in Boston. But the idea is that actually, this is the question: could it have been bigger? Because it wasn't the CM Punk thing, and that was the difference between her and CM Punk. I wanted that, that level of anticipation, and the crowd really couldn't get enough of CM Punk, and they wanted to hear him speak. Where Mercedes not being a great promo, the crowd, okay, big pop, cool, great, happy for you, and they let her speak. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was really waiting and hoping that somebody would come out. Maybe I was really hoping for Britt Baker or somebody to come out and be like, well, you may be the CEO, but well,
you're not the
I'm
boss
tax
of me.
collector. Exactly.
And I'm the tax collector. I am the IRS.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but something.
Best gimmick of all time.
All time. Yeah. But no, but the idea is like, because it was losing steam quickly. And I really was hoping that somebody would come out and interject, and that didn't happen. And now it's 8:15.
And that's the thing. That's why I said it wasn't a wrestling gimmick. It was like, I'm going to go out there, get the crowd what they want. Let's not make them wait. And I'm just going to go off the dome and just tell them how I feel. It wasn't a gimmick per se. I think it was a love letter.
Do you think that's okay, space for that? Or do you think that should have been on like an interview with Renee or Jim Ross?
Nope. You're in that hometown. You are expecting her to come out. There's kids there. There's adults there. There's a bunch of people there. Get her out there. Get it done. Get the show going. That's the one thing I fully agree that they executed that right.
But the difference is we saw CM Punk. We didn't see CEO Monet. We saw Mercedes Renato. from Fairfield, California.
I mean,
That's not the same person.
Again, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at it at all. I think there is very much similarities between the Punk arrival and her arrival, but I think this was her approach that she wanted to do is a little bit different. And I also think this overall, she was never a person to stir the pot, which is another reason why the boss gimmick kinda didn't work for me, because it wasn't really about anything about like being like the top person. It was just something to say, I guess, for some self-validation or something. But when you're a boss, you make boss moves. And I gotta say, her leaving WWE in the way she did, that was definitely the first and only time that she did that, where she says, no, I'm take a chance myself. I'm up out of here. You know what I mean? Which is why I could have even rolled with the boss gimmick if she had done a lot more on the indies. Go ahead and hit every
Well, she didn't have
Japanese...
a leg for a year and a half, so that's a different
true.
problem.
1,000% true. But then again, when a check comes, you got to go. You can't even deny that, and she knows how to get a bag. So we're never going to act like when that blank check comes in, she's not going to run after it. But again, the CEO thing, I think, again, the introduction, whatever it want to be, I get it in terms of who we know her to be outside the ring. I have really been nothing but optimistic on and a little hesitant on what is that going to mean inside of AEW universe, like in this sphere of things. What is that going to mean? One thing I want to throw out there real quick, and Damien, I'm going to give you some time in there too. Okada just debuted.
I forgot about him. He literally rains money and precipitates cash.
And I mean, listen, the thing about Okada that I got to say why I'm more like, that was more interesting, because you heard the rumors about how much money he signed, but he looks like $1 million. You somehow, some way, are some guy that came from nowhere, whether you know him or not, and you're aligned with the Bucks, and y'all all suited up, and they're the EVP, so you got pulled like that? Interesting. So you get a little bit more intrigued about his introduction, what he's going to do, and being aligned with the Bucks. How is that going to play dividends for him? So like, that's like the start. That's like kind of like, But Sasha, Mercedes more or less was like a sign. Hey y'all, what's up? I'm just taking a look for things. I mean, to me, I gotta be honest. This was almost like her at Wembley, just in the stadium, just looking on. It's like, oh, just kind of chill. You're here. Oh, they're gonna give you a mic this time, no problem. Oh, thank you to the fans, no problem. It was that for me. So it's not to be overly critical about her. It's just that this debut is still at. I'm still at the plate here. There hasn't been a ball thrown. There hasn't been a bat swung. We're still at bay right now. Okada has just hit a single. Ospreay might have hit a double or a triple, because I mean he is rolling right now.
Forgot about him too.
But for Mercedes, still at bat. Just nothing has happened just yet, emotionally for me.
Isn't that a problem, considering that the show is over?
Yeah, 1,000%. It's a problem.
It's Thursday, and we're still waiting for something to happen.
But I will say, and Damien, to give it to you, like looking at their roster, man, I mean, they're entirely stacked. I mean, you look at this roster, Athena, who still is the best woman on that roster. Britt Baker's at any given time could be a main event player. You got Deonna Purrazzo, who was just 1 year ago was the best woman wrestler in the world. And Chris Statlander, who can heat up at any point. Carl Sheeta obviously can heat up at any point. I mean, and I'm just going down the list, but in alphabetical name, you got Mercedes right there. Like, you got a lot of folks at any given point that can be main event talent, all the way coming down to Toni Storm, your champion, and Willow, main event. Got to put some respect on her signing and what she's been able to do organically in a division that, I think has been struggling for some time, but it seems like they're getting ready to get on track. But like Taya Valkyrie there, Thunder Rosa, you have an array of folks that you just no doubt that you say that they're stacked. It still has to come together. We still have to see this come together. Her being there is a very attractive name on this roster. It still has to get into gear. Her influence getting ladies a main event, that's dope. What else will her influence do? And with them doing this little makeover, is the makeover just a fresh new coat of paint, or is this a brand new whip? Did we add some more horses under the hood here, and I think that's where I'm at. It's like she's here. You got to show me now that you did this big free agency signing, and I'm sure the terms and how much is going to come out soon. But
2 billion yen.
just because Derrick Henry is on the Ravens does not mean that they're going to the Super Bowl just yet. But damn, does all of the pieces of the puzzle is there now. And I feel the same thing with her. Huge signing. But yet do I have the confidence to say it moved the needle or this fixes any of the concerns that we've had in terms of what they're going to do. So we're here. I'm here to see what happens. But yeah, Damian, I said giving to you a lot to really be made with everything being said. I see you kind of taking it in, and then the gears are turning. Probably need to oil them because they seem like there's some friction with the gears.
Yeah, a
and you're
little
like
bit.
a little frustrated, but a little optimistic. But yeah, nonetheless, man, just tell me about it. What's going through your mind?
Okay, so what's going through my mind is the debut they gave Okada is the one they should have given Mercedes. They should have had her come out after the match, the main event match, and not done it at the beginning, or even someone of a higher caliber if you want to go that route, and her not say a word, and then just hit whatever finishing move she's trying to get over, and then end the show that way with the crowd booing her. If I'm supposed to believe she's the CEO, the boss, whatever, what have you, as opposed to the golly shucks introduction we were given, that would have probably had a lot more people talking. The other problem with that, and I love Willow, I'm a fan of Riho, but those would not be the two people I would have had her debut against, given the circumstances. You mentioned a whole bunch of other names. You could have put Deanna there. You could have put Tony Storm there, Thunder Rosa there. Actually, I would love to see her and Thunder Rosa wrestle. And then have Mercedes whoop one of their asses, as opposed to just coming in and raising Willow's hand at the end. And we're going home happy. But at the same token, it's what happened here. It still feels flat.
I mean, there's obviously history with
yes, I get that. They have unfinished business between the two of them. Yes, of course.
And do you think this is a little bit of a tune-up? Because I think also, even with the Ospreay thing, who doesn't, I know Jamal gonna say something, but we'll just let it go here. Who doesn't want Danielson versus Ospreay? And that's now the match that they're leading to, but they gave him two good solid tune-up matches to get to that point. Is this a situation where Rio's so nuclear hot, I just think it's completely silly to put her near Mercedes because somebody's not getting over here. And I think you either partner them up or just keep them separated because Rio gets a reaction unlike any other wrestler on that roster. But nonetheless, is Rio a tune-up? Is Willow a tune-up? And then one of those big names gets inserted, and I think Britt Baker's right there. I think that's the one I look at.
But those two aren't even the two I would use as a tune-up. Because like you said, they're both Rio's always been in the upper echelon of the women's division, right? And then we have Willow, who's been making that slow climb, and now she's finally getting her flowers.
Yeah.
You couldn't have fed her Abaddon, some sort of flotsam and jetsam, to build up to that second match. So it just feels a little disjointed. It feels a little confusing. And even now we're 33 minutes into the show and we're still trying to figure out what was the end goal here. Just to say we signed her and give her the graphic and then we do the typical Tony Khan new toy syndrome. What's next? But we're not talking about what's next in terms of excitement. We're talking about what's next because nothing really got talked about or explained. And that's my biggest issue.
So I want to counter that, but I want to do it after our break.
Since we're at 34 minutes, true.
Well, if you want to break, then we got to break. Then, with that being said, we'll be back in just a moment. We'll hit the break. We'll talk some. We'll present you all with an indie spotlight for the week, and then back to the discussions here. So, be back in a quick second.
A little birdie told me, everybody, that you may be interested in doing some sponsorship and advertising opportunities with us here at Big Gold Belt Media. You know what? You might as well, because we are the golden standard for all of your media needs. Why would you want to go anywhere else? Besides, all of your pre-roll ads, your mid-roll ads, as well as your on-air reads are going to be done by me, Damian G. Yeah, professional broadcaster, Damian G. We do all types of social media promotions. That means your podcast, your IG, your Facebook, your Twitter, and your business website all get shouted out on our network here at Big Gold Belt Media, where we cover wrestling, movies, comics, and more. And you can find out more information and make those inquiries, kids, because, limited time offer here at biggoldbeltgroup@gmail.com. Again, that is biggoldbeltgroup@gmail.com. Why would you want to go anywhere else? I wouldn't. Well, I work here, but I still wouldn't even if I didn't. So again, Big Gold Belt Media for all your sponsorship and advertising opportunities, your podcast, your IG, your Facebook, your Twitter, all of your social media platforms, as well as any business website you want us to promote on our show. BigGoldBeltGroup@gmail.com, and let them know Damon G sent you.
All right. That being said, Jamal, let's get into this week's Indie Spotlight.
And this week, we're going to go all the way up to Rochester, New York for March 24th. It's GCW presents The Block is Hot. Block is Hot. And it's at Sunday, March 24th, 5 p.m. at the Water Street Music Hall. That's 204 North Water Street in Rochester, New York. I think that's the first time ever in Rochester. So if you're in Western New York, Buffalo, Syracuse, hell, even Toronto, come through. It's GCW. The Block is Hot. A lot of the GCW folks that Nick Gage, Joey Janela, Alley Cat, they're going to be there. But Nick Wayne, came back to GCW for the first time in a long time recently, maybe not last week, but recently. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting show, and it's one of the few shows before the Collective gets going, which is WrestleMania weekend. I'm compiling all of the information for that because they have again, a lot of things happen in WrestleMania weekend, so we'll definitely talk about that next week. But this show is March 24th, GCW, The Block is Hot, up there in Rochester, New York. You can get your tickets at Eventbrite, or you can search them on the Twitter machine, Game Changer Wrestling, GCW, The Block is Hot, 24th of March in Rochester, and that's the Indie Spotlight for this week.
All right, sounds good. Let's get right back into it.
Right. So I wanted to say that, yes, it doesn't necessarily feel completely spelled out of what Mercedes' intentions are in AEW. However, we can look at what has already happened because of her presence in the company. We got Rio versus Willow Nightingale.
Mm-hmm.
Because of how now Willow won the match because Rio's on that Lesnar schedule and she doesn't need to win. Willow got jumped by Sky Blue and Julia Hart, and God bless them both because they're both doing a hell of a job with the TBS title. House of Black shenanigans going on. Mercedes makes the save, which is obviously why that's the main event, because that's how you have to end the show, with Mercedes raising Willow's hand. But where was Chris Statlander? He is Willow's partner with Stokely Hathaway, who was managing them both, and Statlander was nowhere to be found. So not only do we end the show with a storyline brewing, because obviously Statlander is going to have to answer for herself, we introduce Monet as the face that she wants to be for right now, doing boss things, I guess. Sure. Look, if you have under 50 employees, you're in a different tax bracket, so you're still a boss. It's interesting that we see storyline development, a main event for the women, and a match that went a segment went 20 minutes and they overran. Showed it into maybe 5 after. These may seem like nuts and bolts consolation prizes, but we're talking about the women's division. Yeah. And we're talking about an area where they can take anything that they can get, but this is actually more than they've gotten in a little bit, considering who's not there. Hayter, Tony Storm wasn't there, Baker wasn't there. Rose is going to be on Collision, and this is also, again, I'm about to contradict myself, because why is Mercedes the CEO and in the TBS title picture? I mean, he's going after the secondary women's title. Either way, it's still a good time because the TBS title had a meaningful storyline development to close Dynamite in Boston with two $ S's. Hot damn, the women are cooking.
All right, let's
right
talk
now.
about what they need to do here. And I just had a great idea.
Okay.
You know how people from WWE and AEW and vice versa take their gimmicks on the road. Yeah. I would be totally on board if her whole gimmick was being BFFs with Tony Khan, because not only would it work, because that's sort of how Mercedes sort of online presence was about Vince at the time. It's like, Vince is my best friend, or I love Vince and stuff. Because obviously Vince got her a check and whatnot, and maybe she has pool, whatever it may be. Vince stuff happened. She felt like maybe she lost that connection, and Vince ultimately gone, and so on, whatever.
A lot of people lost ties with Vince.
Yeah, I mean, like before all of that, when the point where like Vince was like being stepping down per se, and Triple H and that stuff. I say because her being BFFs with Tony Khan and having that pipeline and access really does stir the pot. It definitely will create some interesting developments going forward, because that had always been sort of Britt Baker's position with Shivani and Tony Khan being in their ear and being able to have that influence. And some people didn't. Damn it. A lot of people didn't like that. So I wouldn't be mad if the CEO had an ear with Tony, and that was the thing she kind of ran with, and she was able to call her shots, or she could talk about whatever her plans is going to be and whatever she's going to change and whatnot. I think that could be something that could at least hold my attention. But then what do they need to do? Whether it's her, the women's division, AEW, what needs to happen here?
Well, while you're talking, I'm thinking about Stokely and Statlander. I would say make those two and Willow the goons I was referring to in the first segment. Those could be, and then Stokely could cut the promos for her. Remember how like he used to do it for Jade at first, and then all of a sudden that whole partnership just like ended, and we didn't know why.
Brought up Jade.
Oh, it was Mark Sterling.
Right. So instead of Mark Sterling, let it be Stokely that can cut those promos on behalf of the MLM, and that's what you can call it. Now could be her thing. She's not the CEO. She's the entrepreneur of the MLM, and that could be the tag team of Willow and of Statlander. And then you got the sniveling, right-hand man of Stokely Hathaway, which I would love to see. Or you could go the other way to James's point about being BFS with Tony Khan and make her a representative of the network. Like back in the day, like Don Callis? Yeah, something to that ilk. Because she's got people in high places at networks, and she can get them, be like a Hollywood producer, something to that effect.
How do you do that as a face?
That's the whole point.
She can never be. She can't be a face.
That's why you shouldn't have debuted her as a face.
And you know what?
So many other ways to go as a heel.
Or maybe that's exactly why they debuted her in the way they did, because she wanted to come out, lay down the flowers for everybody, and then the next time she comes out.
I mean, and to be fair, it did for Will Hobbs, because he came out as, like, oh no, this brother's been through the ringer and he's made it. Good for him. He's living the street. He turned on Cody. God damn it. And he hasn't looked back since. So that could be a thing too. What should they do? Now, let's assume that they go with the face run.
Okay.
And just because obviously that's harder. Heels are more interesting, and she's a boss, and people hate corporations. So that's just easy. That's low-hanging fruit. How do you convey that she's somebody that you want to watch as the CEO? I think it would be harder for people to be on her side as a competent, still powerful business entity. Because I haven't met one that makes you want to give them a hug. Whether it's Montgomery Burns or Vince McMahon or whatever. That's the look, though. That's the look. So what should they do? I honestly think they do run this friendship with Willow and of course Statlander, who wasn't there, has some explaining to do, and I think that's how you break up that thing. Wherever Stokely goes, he goes. He's not really, he's inconsequential to the moment. But obviously, I think that Statlander's probably better off by herself. She was TBS champion. The only thing that she's done since she beat Jade was lose the belt. to Julia Hart, and really hasn't done a damn thing since. And it's really been all about Willow's rise, coming up. Does Statlander go to ROH? Sure, we don't need her in AEW. You can do that and make that transition. Sheeta did it. She'll be in ROH soon, so that will be interesting as well. Now, of course, she's the CEO. What if she, for storyline reasons, bought ROH from Tony Khan?
Oh, see? But then that takes away the face angle, doesn't it? Doesn't that make her a heel?
She could
again. Stay on track here. She's not going to be. There's no way the CEO thing works as a face. You just have to come in, let her lay her flowers down. I mean, and granted, a lot of these things kind of happen after the show, but the fact that you had to debut her, you let her come in, you give the flowers to Boston, you give the flowers to the fan, you do the little nice thing at the end, and then you get back into full-blown heel mode, CEO mode, and out for her own. That's how that works.
Easy. That's the easy answer. Damn it! I want a challenge. I need this to work as a face.
That's the thing.
And don't get me wrong. I 100% agree with you that she should not have debuted as a face. She should have cracked Willow Nightingale with one of those brass knuckles that she had, and left the tattoo on her forehead that said Monet. Go ahead.
Do you think she's over enough to be face or heel and debut the way?
Well, see, here's the problem.
And debut either, and it would have worked out for them.
I don't think she's over at all.
Oh, she's their biggest. She's easily their biggest talent on their roster.
That's the thing, though. There's a difference between Mercedes and Rio after that promo that she cut. We know that Rio is going to come in and give us a damn entertaining match, and she doesn't have to speak a word of English to do so.
True.
We haven't seen Monet after her injury yet. She just punched Scott Blue in the face, and that's all she's done. I'm not convinced that if it's Mercedes versus Rio, Mercedes doesn't get booed out of the building.
I mean, I that's why I say you don't put them across each other. Yeah,
because if she's that old, and doing whatever, and she's a face, then people are going to boo Rio. I don't see that happening in any city.
Yeah, Rio is definitely within the top echelon of folks. Though. Yeah, but I mean, granted, on paper, Mercedes is their biggest talent on their roster. Now the real question is Mercedes Renato, Mercedes Monet, Sasha Banks. Can the different aliases and obviously government, can they all convert to who she is? That's the big thing, because a lot of folks said Sasha Banks is on The Mandalorian. Not a lot of folks was able to put one and two together that Mercedes Banks is actually Mercedes Renato, and that's who's on them. Yeah, and that person's also Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks is the big name, and I mean, like, granted, listen, this is all I'm saying. I will start the crescendo here. WWE creates stars. It's not even a question. Her brand has been established. This can definitely elevate AEW. Can AEW elevate her? I'm just not so. But now I think there's a little bit of an identity crisis here, because I think the name Sasha Banks is still very much in the picture. Very, very much. And the next big thing that's attached to her is The Mandalorian. So Mercedes Renato, the AEW wrestler, where does that fit in the profile of celebrity in terms of the acknowledgement for her?
The short answer to that is that Mercedes needs to be who Jade should have been for AEW.
Well, no. Well, yes and no. Because I think the big question is, can AEW now get it right? Because they couldn't get it right for Jade. Well, now have they figured it out? They say, "Oh, we can't drop the ball now. This is already an established star." Like,
that's a $5 million question. Yes. But Mercedes, because again, Jade, we know that Jade's tried to do a thing and branch out and expand her reach, in many different ways. Whether it was her modeling already, where it was the internet thing with the Baddies Club and whatever, we know that she organically tried to grow her brand herself.
She did,
and it didn't. And it they full stop. She did.
No, yeah, she did. That's why she got that check, because she did.
Right. So because of that, Mercedes already has that built in. Now we just need to the wrestling to match up with the brand.
I think the wrestling could do nothing. I think she has to be presented like they broke the bank.
Bigger than wrestling.
Absolutely.
And the problem is AEW hasn't done that with anybody in 5 years.
That's the issue right here. That's the issue. You need to be able to look folks like me in the eye and say, we're going to make her brand bigger, and she will be a bigger star than what she was when she arrived. That's what needs to happen. So, and again, there's not a lot of track record that's going to have me to believe that, because the first thing I started thinking of, Warner Bros. Discovery, we need some crossover appeal tonight. She's here. Run a commercial, do something, put her on the map so that folks see who she is, knows her from her Hollywood work, looks back at AEW and realize that AEW is also a destination for top celebrities and stars, and not just a backyard for professional wrestling, which they got the professional wrestling thing down, but now you're bringing in superstars.
Right.
Do something.
Why she needs to be a part of the March Madness coverage immediately. That's on Turner's networks. Get it done.
Something.
No, I mean seriously. Like we've been talking about this for the last 4 years. We gave it a slide because they were started up and they were growing. But now that we have names, we have people, and they're with a multinational network that has its tentacles and everything.
Right.
There is no excuse that Mercedes shouldn't be a downloadable character in the next Mortal Kombat game tomorrow.
That's a move. That's a move right there. That's a move.
You know, there isn't, we got Godzilla versus Kong coming up. No, that's a Universal movie. But we had Barbie. We had Oppenheimer.
I ain't talking about Barbie, bro.
I'm just saying, if this were last year.
Just don't talk about Barbie. I'm so frustrated doing that. That's just the most frustrating thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, so but no. I give you one. James Gunn is ramping things up right now. You see how much he's dumping into John Cena, Peacemaker. Peacemaker just arrived on Mortal Kombat and so on. There needs to be a measure or a position or a slot where somebody needs to ensure that she gets a conversation with Gunn and a part of this new DC EU, and that becomes the cross-brand appeal, because she has yet tapped into the superhero market, and she's right there. She's right there.
If she isn't, then whatever her deals is with Disney, I don't care. But the bottom line is that AEW has to venture outside of themselves to organically grow these brands together. There is no reason why you have a roster full of young, attractive, athletic personnel that we can only find on commercials on TNT.
Yeah.
I mean, and obviously we know these wrestlers and their personalities run the spectrum. They're goofy, they're serious. Abaddon's into her own thing. Like there's so many different personality types. It's a crying shame that they are in the box that is just AEW. I wrestle. Okay, cool.
Facts.
Because that was the whole thing. AEW was supposed to be the wrestling alternative to sports entertainment. So now we're talking about making them more sports entertainment. So they're not the alternative.
I don't think it needs to be sports entertainment, because that's a presentation attribute.
That's where they are now.
I think it. I mean, maybe not. I don't think it has to be sports entertainment. I think it just has to be. You have to want better for yourself, and they need to facilitate that. That's my whole thing. You go to WWE, Jade has wrestled one time. Her brand instantly looks bigger. A commercial during the Super Bowl. Come on now. Like, that's a huge deal. And everywhere you look, you see, a matter of fact, mainstream media covered her. Anyway, I ain't gonna go on anymore. Right. David, let's get some final thoughts here on everything we talked about. Take it at any angle here.
I just want to see where this takes it at this point, because we've pretty much ran around the drain, and yet the first feud, the first angle,
circled the drain after the first day.
It's like, okay, we circled the drain, but now what are we going to do with her? That's my biggest wonder. And then the secondary wonder is AEW typically only gives us one women's segment an episode. So, and we just had Deonna Purrazzo debut, 3 weeks ago, a month ago?
Yeah.
So now you had the biggest women's star in Impact, now TNA, and now you have one of the biggest women from WWE and now of All Entertainment. Are we going to have more than one segment? Are we going to get them for a quarter of the show and not just in a promo? Are we going to have in-ring action? So that's my secondary worries, because they have not been able to successfully book more than one women's angle at a time. So now what? Even though it's Mercedes, now what?
Yeah, I mean that's been the long and short of it is that and we've said this kind of cautiously, but we've always bookended with it. It doesn't matter what anybody does if they don't, expand the reach of the women's division.
Yes.
They have to present it better. They have to present it more, and they have added more television time. It's not just Dynamite, Dark, and Rampage. They've added 2 more hours. There's no excuse. Send them to Ring of Honor. There's no excuse. They have to present the women's division in a better way. They have a CEO of something, and that has to mean something. That has to lead somewhere. We've talked about how Sasha's was the boss in WWE. That's because she did boss things.
Mm-hmm.
In NXT, when she took off Izzy's glasses and broke them and whatever, that was a boss move. That was a thing that she must know something that we don't, because she's doing things that people aren't.
Yeah, I mean, interacting with the fans on a live show, not a thing. Especially a fan that's so over as Izzy was at the time. So I get you.
No, but I'm saying that was a thing, and able to do that then and carry it to the main roster. Okay, cool. Well, that was 2015,
at least.
So that was 10 years ago. So exactly, we owe. So now we need to see what the CEO actually means and does, and you can't start a new job at the top unless you bought the company.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I've never seen a person come in and go, "I'm the CEO." Are you now?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not. Sit down.
Yeah, Tony Khan and ROH. That's what that was.
Exactly.
Yeah. With that being said, obviously we'll be here. We'll be keeping an eye on Mercedes Moné's career in AEW. Nonetheless, it's a huge signing for them.
I'm rooting for her.
And me too. I'm rooting for that women's division like there's no other. And they had traces, but hopefully she adds and that doesn't subtract is another thing, because you have a lot of good momentum and good ways, and everybody is fighting and working hard to get to that top point. So hopefully she's just another person to help reach bigger and better goals. And as you mentioned, she wants to be the person that takes the revolution around the world. So let's see it happen. That easily takes my attention to Forbidden Door, but we'll see. Anywho, let us know tonight in the comments your thoughts about Mercedes Moné's arrival to AEW. We'll take a look at that once you post. But come back, tune in with us each and every week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at all Big O Bell channels at Big O Bell Everything, or you can go to bigobell.com/live. That also gets you to the live show, makes it very easy for you. But until next time, y'all be safe, y'all be good, and we'll see you back then.
All I really need, that big